Hey y'all, this is Sheila Ryan with Designs by Baby Moon, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I want to show you how I'm digitizing some freestanding lace, this heart bow ornament, from an SVG file. So I got the file from Sanqunetti Designs over on Etsy, and I wanted to walk you through the process of digitizing and then stitching out. So in this video, I'll show some of my favorite ways to digitize freestanding lace and explain why I do what I do. This is just one way to do it, but if you'd like to know more, let's jump into the software and you can follow along with me as I digitize this. Okay, I'm over here in Embrilliance Stitch Artist, and I need to pull in a vector. So I want to grab this cute ornament design. This is from Sanqunetti Designs over on Etsy, and this pack has lots of cute things in it, and I'm grabbing this ornament design because I think this is a super cute heart with a bow, and there's something else I want to do to it. So we've got the SVG file in here. Now SVG files are a little bit different than regular clip art because they're just the outlines of the objects, and so for this design I don't need all of these pieces, but I'm going to utilize them a little bit differently than I would with normal artwork for embroidery digitizing. So let's first get this so it's going to fit into my 4x4 hoop, because I'm going to do this kind of the size of like a little Suncatcher or an ornament. I'm really thinking of more something like a car charm to hang from your rearview mirror or a bookmark, something like that. But all these pieces still don't fit in my 4x4 hoop. There we go. All right, so let's look at what we've got here. So we've got some shapes here. We've got the outline. We've got that little part that kind of defines that space there. We've got the heart, which isn't really a whole heart because it's hidden behind the bow. We've got a little ornament top there, the center of the bow, the sides of the bow, and the tails, and then those little shadows for inside the top of the bow. Okay, so let's decide what we actually need out of these parts and what we can do without. So we're not going to really do something with this whole outline, and you can actually see when you go in here that this outline is kind of a little bit away from the shapes. So this outline really isn't going to do a whole lot for us. So I could go ahead and get rid of it. I could save it for later and move it off to the side, but for now I think I'm going to go ahead and just get rid of it because we're not going to be using that at all. I am thinking about the little heart here, so I want to do the heart first, and let's pick some colors that we like. Let's see, I like to use my Isacord palette, and I'm going to make this heart pink. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to apply a freestanding lace fill. So here's my starts and stops. The nodes around the side of the ornament are fine. I could adjust them a little bit more if I wanted to, but they look good. I have my freestanding lace pattern set at a double freestanding lace fill. The density is all the way down to 1, and that'll make a nice solid-ish. It's not truly solid. You can still see through it, but that's the fill density that I like, and I like the diamond pattern applied, and generally when I do that, if you zoom in here you can see those 60-degree diamonds, and I like my fill to go around horizontally like this. I just like that. There's not really a good reason, I just like it. When I'm doing freestanding lace though, freestanding lace doesn't stand up on its own or stay on its own without some sort of border to hold all these pieces together, and so I need a border for it. And while I'm thinking about this whole design, one thing I am thinking about is that I don't necessarily need the border to go up here because this side will all be covered by this little bow area. So what I'm going to do is I could make a border a couple of different ways. I could do a copy of this shape and paste and then delete the sides of the border. So let me show you how to do that. I'm going to copy up here and then paste. So I've got two instances over here in my object window. The second one, instead of it being freestanding lace, I can change it to a border. My border has the parallel, zigzag, and the freestanding lace fill. So I might make it a little bit bigger, maybe. Let's see what happens if I make it 3 millimeters. And like I said before, we don't really need this top edge, so I can open up the shape, right? So I made it so it's not a closed shape now. And I can just start deleting these points and deleting the parts of the outline that I don't need. So I don't need these areas because they're going to be tucked up underneath the bow. So the other thing that I could do is I could just redraw the shape at the bottom part. But this is fine. This is a fine way to do it. And see how my little area starts and stops there? I'm not thinking about the pathing yet. I'll do all of that at the end, but that is all I need for that shape right there. So I'm going to take these two pieces, and because it came in as an SVG with that space between them, I'm going to scoot them up just a bit so that they kind of land right there at the edges of the tails of the bow. So they'll be nice and tucked in up under the bow. Okay, so the other pieces that I want to play with on here, I want to use this ornament, and again I'm going to scooch him down just a little bit so that when I add the texture that I want, it'll be tucked in to that bow. And let's do this. Let's apply our freestanding lace fill. Okay, I don't want it to be black. Let's change the color. I want something kind of gray or silvery. So let's do sterling. Yeah, I like that. And again, I'm looking at where I need the satin border to kind of hold that together. And I need the satin border across the top, but not down here on the sides. So we can copy and paste a second instance of it, change that one to a border, and see how it has all this. This is going to be way too thick if I leave that alone. So let's delete this bottom chunk of it, and I can just start deleting those nodes. There are quicker ways to do this, but on this computer with this mouse, this is the way I'm going to do this one, and so this works just fine for me. Let's pull that side down there. I don't like that corner up there, so let's adjust that just a bit. Okay, I think we need one more node there. There we go. Okay, I'm happy with that shape now. And that is the top of our ornament. Just for fun, let's add a little bit of a texture to this because I want it to have a different little bit of a look. And I'm going to add a fill texture. I'm going to change the angle so that those kind of look like, you know, the lines of those 10 ornament things. So it kind of looks like that. It's kind of smooth up and down. You can see that my density is set really loose here, and I don't have any underlay on that fill. That just gives this a little bit different texture than this piece, so that when the light hits it, it just it appears to have those straight lines on it. So there's our top piece. Now that needs to be tucked in up underneath the border. So I've got the lace fill to give it structure, the little fill pattern to give it some interest, those vertical lines that I want in that kind of light fill, and then the border that goes across the top. Now this piece right here, this is interesting. So this was just the middle part of that area that showed where the little handle loop was with the outline, and we don't need the bottom part of this at all, but we do want to make a little hanger for it. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the shape here, and we can just take off this bottom piece, and so now I'm left with that arch, and I'm going to simply apply a satin border to it, and my satin border should have all the freestanding parts underneath it. So it's got the freestanding underlay, the zigzag, and the parallel underlay. That's a nice strong handle border for me. I do want it to be the same color as the gray piece. So I'm coming over here to my thread options, and I'm choosing that sterling so that it will match with the piece before it. And I want that to stitch before everything, or at least before that top border, and that way the ends of those handles are tucked in underneath that stitch so that it'll hold together well. Okay, now all we're left with is the bow. So let's look at our bow pieces. Because they don't actually touch here, I need to do some edits, and I need to think about these pieces and how I can get them to touch better. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust this center circle, right? Because I want that to kind of connect everything together. That's going to hold everything together. I know that I want that to be red, so let's go ahead and choose a red color. Usually the red I go for is poinsettia red, just when I'm digitizing. You can use whatever color you want to when you get to your thread colors, but for some reason I like that poinsettia red, and I'm going to apply a satin border. And when I'm looking at this here, I know that this is in between everything, and it's going to hold everything together, but I don't need the freestanding fill. And I don't necessarily need these other fills either, because there's going to be some structure behind all of this. So as I'm thinking about this whole shape, I need to think about how to get the whole shape in there. And in order to have a big shape that is going to be able to be filled in, instead of having lots of different shapes here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different pieces, I'm going to simply adjust these shapes so that they all overlap and then merge them together. See how they're kind of overlapping all of each other here. Ooh, that is part of this. I'm going to get twisted nodes if I'm not careful. I'm just dragging these points up into where they're overlapping the other shapes a little bit. Okay, let's see. What in the world is going on there? I do want these to overlap a bit. There we go. And then bring that one up to there again. Just getting them to overlap. So when they overlap, I will be able to adjust all of this so that it's one shape. That's what I'm trying to do here. Okay, so it's all overlapping. Got a lot of nodes right there at that corner. We don't necessarily need all of those nodes. There we go. So I just want those pieces to overlap. And now when I click all of them, so I've got the sides of the bows and those tails overlapping, I can click this union. This is a Stitch Artist Level 3 function, and it will give me one whole shape, okay? That should be the whole bow. And I've got some little areas to clean up where it didn't quite overlap just right. But let me just show you how we can get rid of those and keep working on our things. So I can delete these nodes. I'm just grabbing, you know, them all with my mouse and deleting, and you know, just deleting a bunch at a time. I could delete them one by one, but this is a little bit faster. I can delete all of those. Those are in the inside. This up here, that's something a little crazy, so we can delete that. And now that's looking good. So I'm going to take and move that back into position. All right. And that looks really good to me right now. Okay, so what I need to do with this piece now is I need to change it to that same red. So I'm going to go over to my threads, go to the palette. I don't have to search through my whole list, and turn that red. And now I can apply the freestanding fill to that shape. Okay, you can see I still need to do a little bit of adjusting just to get it right. Okay, and now I have that whole shape. It's again set at my freestanding lace fill. The density's at 1. Stitch length's good. The pattern's good. I do want to double check that I've got my, where it ties a knot for me. And then obviously this loop here will stitch last. So you can see it's beginning to take shape. Now I've got a couple of little pieces right here that I want to use. I want to give these two little bow areas, the parts that are inside the back of the bow, you know, like the back side of the ribbon, I want to give that a little bit of a fill so that it looks like there's a little bit more dimension and shadow inside there, and it just kind of fills that area a little bit, just for some visual interest, right? Because I don't want it to look flat. We want it to kind of look semi-realistic. It's not terribly realistic. I mean, you know, it's not a photograph, but it is a drawing, and I want it to kind of look nice. So I'm going to make that one. It's got that same light density fill. There's no underlay. I do want to have threads tied on, and let's adjust this one too. Remember, I overlapped everything so that it was kind of, I could change those shapes so that there was a union of them to make one whole shape. So let's get that back straight, and then I'll change my angle of inclination. So now it'll have the lines are going to go this way at this angle. Let's make it 55. And this one over here, that angle is at, let's make that at 125. Just so they kind of reflect each other nicely. Right there. Okay. Now I've got those little shadows. I can see that this part is going to be underneath that knot, and we don't really need it to be that far into the knot. So I'm just removing that area, backing it out just a little bit, because it doesn't need to be, we don't need that much in there. So the trick with digitizing is if you don't want stitches somewhere, don't put them there. And this is what I'm doing. I don't want those stitches. I don't want lots and lots of stitches built up underneath that knot, so I'm not going to put any stitches there. The other thing that I need to define this bow, I need an outline, right? But I also need some of these shapes back. And I didn't delete my pieces, so we can kind of use these areas to get our outer shapes. And so I'm going to put some stitches on this tail. Right, there's my border stitches. I just used the shape I made. Now, I don't need all this because all this is going to be tucked up underneath those, the sides of the bow. So what I can do is I can open up the shape, and now I can start deleting those nodes that are those other parts. And I just click and delete. I could, you know, lasso a couple of them and get rid of them that way, but I'm just going to click through and delete those nodes one at a time. There we go, because I don't need them. This is a case of don't have the stitches where you don't need them. And then I'm looking to make sure that everything else looks good here. Yeah, that looks good. Now it is black, so I could have a black outline if I wanted, but that's looking good right there. And then let's grab the side of that bow. Okay, so here's the original part of the bow, and I just scooched it so it looks like it's really good. It's like right around where I want it to be, and I'm going to go ahead and apply satin stitching to that. Okay, now I've got do you see this satin stitch, this border right here on that side? I don't need this border. So again, I'm going to open up this shape, and I'm going to start deleting those points. Okay, so now I've got my side of the bow. I need a little part across the top, and I can take this one and make a copy of it. And this is not the only way to draw this. You could pick other parts and draw it differently, but I'm gonna draw along the top of that, and then again open up my shape and delete those bottom parts of that shape so that only the top, right? Because the bottom already has this border on it. And then I'm gonna path it. Hang on. And I'm going to check my underlay because these are exterior parts of the ornament. I do kind of want that freestanding lace fill on it, so let me put all that back on it so they hold the edge right. And actually I want a little bit more underlay on there just to give it some a thicker outline. It makes it stand out just a little bit. Okay, that looks good to me. I think I want this one to go a little bit further up here, so that, and of course this is going to be last, and all these I'm going to change their color in a minute, but I want these to stitch in a certain order so that all of the ends of those other things are kind of tucked up underneath there, right? So let's stretch that out a little bit. See, looking cute. All right, now if I'm pretty sure that this is symmetrical, I could just copy these pieces and then flip them and put them over there, but just to be on the safe side, I'm going to do what I did last time and just add the outlines and then change where it's opened at, and then delete these parts that are going to be tucked up under there. Okay, delete all that. We don't need any of that. And we can kind of make sure that's not too far up in there. Scooch this one up just a little bit. All right. And then let's copy that inside of the bow so we get that top line, and then I'll open it up and get rid of the bottom part. Here's the top one. I'll save that node. Don't want to delete him. Okay, because we just want that top shape. All right, put it back down there, right along there. And I'll deal with the pathing in a minute. And then we need the bottom part of the bow, which I have a little line for it right here. Let's put some stitches on that and open the shape up and start deleting the ones that are going to be overlapped. Okay, the reason I'm deleting the overlaps is I don't want it to be so thick and bulky right there. I don't need them, so I'm not going to force the software to keep them. All right, that's looking pretty good. Let's make all this red now so that we can actually see what it's going to look like. So I'm going to go over to the color, change it to one color, look at my palette, and get that red color that we used. All right, that's looking good. Now I can see some parts that I want to adjust a little bit. So I do want to adjust this shape right here. Kind of want to make those match a little bit better. So I'm going to give that some volume. And in doing that, I've got to make sure that I give the lace that same volume so that it doesn't look awkward there. I've got an extra node over here, and I think that might give me some issues. So let's get rid of that extra node right there. Oops, wrong one. Let's go back and fix that. Let's drag him up, reshape him. Okay, I think that's a little bit better. And this one up here, I can pull in just a bit, just to give him some room. Okay, I think that's going to be a little bit of a problem for me. And so what I want to do, let me think about what I want to do there. No, I think that's going to be okay. I'm going to change this one to a curved node and this one also to a curved node instead of a cusp. And that's going to let that shape relax a little bit more. It's not a true, there we go. That feels a little bit better to me. Okay, so that side's looking really good and really nice. Let's fix this side over here. And let's change that to a curve, this to a curve. You could select all of these and change them at the same time, but I'm just going to click them. That one does need to be a cusp, but I'm going to drop it down just a little bit, and I'm going to adjust this one out just a little, just a touch, just so that it's not so much of a point right there. See how much nicer that looks? Okay, now let's work on pathing. Now this one, we said this needs to be at the very, very end, right? So we can put that at the very end, drag it down to the very end, and now it sits on top of everything. So it sits on top of all of these parts and kind of tucks them all in. It doesn't need to be the freestanding lace edge because it's not on the edge. It's just right here in the middle, and it's sitting on top of everything. It'll just be the finishing touch. And so that looks really good to me. Let's double check that our pathing though for this bow is right. Actually, let's start at the very beginning. We've got these three colors, so let's path the whole thing. Now our little heart piece, our freestanding lace heart, starts and stops up here in the top. And see, remember how we moved that over to kind of tuck it in under the top of the bottom of the bow? We can adjust things now because we don't necessarily need it to be so far underneath there. And I have an extra node there that is bugging me. So let's get rid of that extra node. There we go. Now we don't have so much going on under there. All right, so our lace is going to start and stop right there. See, there's my start bow tie. And I don't really want it to stop there. I want it to stop down here because we've got that satin border that's going to be the same color, and it's going to stitch all at the same time. And what I want is for them to start and stop at the same place. So let's do that, right? Yeah. There you go. We want that to start over there, and it can stop over here. That's fine. We're going to be switching thread to the next color anyway, so it doesn't really matter if they jump. And now we can work on this piece up here. And the little loop at the top is going to start over here, run over there. That's good. And where does our lace start? Oh, down there. So we want to scoot him up so that they can start and stop near each other. but we can let him stay right there. Do you see how that is all underneath that part under there though? Ooh, that's a weird node. I think I want that to be a cusp. We can get rid of some of that. Yeah, there we go. We can get rid of that too. That's a lot under there. We don't need it to be so far down underneath that part of the bow. So we can, this is that little layer. We can get rid of those nodes, and we can adjust this so that it's not taking up so much space. We don't need all those stitches there, so let's not put them there. Okay, there we go. It's looking good. Okay, so, and that's just that light sketch layer over that anyway, so it doesn't have to be as full as the other. Okay, let's look at the back layer of lace and make sure we don't have too much under there. And I'm just deleting those nodes to kind of reshape it a little bit. You could move the nodes too. That's another way to do it. And that's just an extra node. See how it's just way down underneath there. We don't need all that. It doesn't need that much coverage. It needs a little, but not that much. Okay, so let's go back to pathing. All right, so we've got our top loop. Let's double check the underlay on that. Let's double check the starts and stops. Yes. The lace, start and stop. Then that little fill. We want it to kind of start right there and stop right there. That's fine. And then our satin border to cover that area. Scooch him up a little bit. And do you see how this is like the dots here means start and stop? Let's reverse those points. So create outline, reverse points. And now my starts and stops are over here. Ooh, where did that one go? Start and stop. There we go. Where did the start button go? I must have some extra nodes. Oh, look. That node was hiding underneath that one. So that is the start node. Now, sometimes there's extra nodes when you bring in an SVG, and that's something to pay attention to. All right. See how that's looking really good. You know what? I could actually further delete this because we don't need so much. I need a little something, but I don't need that much. Maybe I need to put a node back and get that down just a bit. But I don't need it. I don't need to be that far down underneath there. Okay. All right. All right. I'm gonna quit messing with it. Oops. Put you back. You need a curved node. No, you need to be a cusp because you do need to make a turn there. There we go. And then I'm looking at this, and I'm going to scooch that down just a little bit more just to make sure he's really tucked in there good. Okay, now let's path our bow. So this is going to be a thread change, and there's our whole bow area. I kind of like to start at the bottom and then go back up to the top like I'm filling a paint can. So let's do that. So start here, stop up there. So it's going to kind of fill across. Then the next thing that'll happen is that it should stitch those little fill areas. So let's, if it's going to end up here at the top left, then I want it to fill this one first. So let's change this shape and make it open and then close it back up in here. So start to the left, fill at the right, and then I need to travel a little bit from that area over to this area where this shape starts. Put some single stitches on it, and this could be about that far. They don't need a tie because they're just running from one area to the other. And then I want it to start over here and stop over here. Yeah, let's do that. And stop at the end. And remember, I was adjusting that shape because it doesn't really need to fill that. This isn't a shape that's got a lot of structure. It's just changing the look of behind that bow, so it has something a little bit dark and it's kind of in the shadow without using a darker color and not another thread change. Okay, now we can start working on our outline and getting that outline pathed correctly. So the first thing I have is the border that ties that all together, and so I want to start where this one ended. All right, so this shape ended up here at the top right, and the first part of the border is going to end up there too. So I'm going to change again the create outline reverse points. I'm going to change the orientation of which way that goes. So it's going to start on the right and travel to the left. And then I want my tails to be tucked in up underneath this part. So I need to have a run that's going to hide underneath that center. And I'm going to run down here to the bottom of that center and put some of those single stitches there. And so I can start at this tail, there we go, and start here at the tail, end at the side, and then I'm going to change this area so that this starts down here, runs around here, and gets to the side of my bow, and then the bow, that loop part of the bow, starts stitching right there, and then it ends right here. That looks good to me. Now we can make another little run, and since it ended right here, we're going to run back over here and then start working on our other side. So I'm going to single stitch right there, and I want to catch that top loop, right? So let's do that, and I'm going to change the order. So let's reverse those points so that my green dot is over here where it starts, it ends over here. I'm going to need to make my bow ties match. And now again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to run down over here, okay? Catch the top of that tail. Give it another straight stitch. Okay, and now I'll start stitching the tail, and my green dot is already right there, which is great. And let's also end there. I know my red dot's over there, but let's tell it we want to end here so that we can catch this part of the side bow, right? So we'll move our bow tie right there where that tail ended, and then it'll end right here, and then we'll tell our circle for the knot that we want our starting point to be down here, and let's go ahead and have our stop point there too. I'm going to go ahead and add a node that I could open and close so that they just stop and start at one point. All right, I think we're completely pathed. Now I want to do one more thing. I want to add some lettering to this. So let's pick some lettering, and then we're going to adjust it because I think I want my lettering to be tucked up under here too. So let's find some lettering. I'm going to grab the lettering tool, and over here on my properties box, I'm going to change this ABC to XOXO because I think this would make a cute Valentine's Day Suncatcher. And honestly, let's pick a different font. That's the basic block font, but I have the Patch Artist fonts too, and I think there's one that has some serifs on it that I really like. Yes, it's the Firefighters font. And I want this to be up in there like that. Now, I'm just adjusting the font and thinking about how I want it. One of the things that I'm going to do to this font, I'm redigitizing this basically. I want to take off the autofill. I don't want any fill. I want it to be a nice satin font, but I want it to be a little bit fatter. So let's adjust the pull compensation of the font. I could just inflate it a little bit, but I think I like the fatness of it, and I need to change some of these letters actually, because if I scoot those letters up underneath there, this is going to be bulky right there because the letters have their own satin, and I don't need extra stuff under there. So I don't want stitches there, so I'm not going to put them there. I'm going to take them off of the letters. So let's change this to objects. We're going to convert it to objects. We don't need the baseline anymore. So let's get rid of those baselines. I'm just going to select them all. Okay. The baselines just tell the letters where to sit. And let's start working on the parts of the letters that I don't want underneath that that ribbon, those tails. So I'm going to bring these nodes down just a little bit so there's not so many stitches up under there. Okay, so I'm just deleting the nodes that I don't want. And I'm looking, I have a visual of where the stitches from that ribbon hit, and I kind of want the letters to look like they're tucked up under there. That looks good. The other thing that I want to do is I want these serifs on the X's to be a little bit chunkier. So I'm going to make those a little bit bigger. Okay, let's get that other serif. There it is. That might change the whole letter. Actually, no. We're going to make that a little bit bigger. There we go. All right, that has a little bit of a cuter look to me. And then let's do this one right here. I want to change the serifs on that one. I want to scooch them out just a bit, just to give them a little bit more. Ooh, that one I need to adjust a lot because he doesn't need to be up underneath that. Wait, so did you see what I did? I just took that corner off, so now it runs right underneath there. See? So it's kind of chunky. That side doesn't, I don't need to adjust that side. I just need to make it bigger. Scoot that out. 1, 2, there's one more part of the X. Oh, there it is down there. All right, let's get that guy. Oh, that's going to change the whole thing. So let's do this. Yeah, I don't want to change the whole X because I already made it bigger. So let's do this. Let's unbranch him. Okay, so we can just have that piece. There we go. And now we can rebranch that whole X. So let's grab all the pieces of the X. Okay, and now we can rebranch it. All right, so let's look at our letters. So our letters are going to start here. X. X finishes there. I'm going to scoot that O over just a tiny bit. You know what we can do? We can make him a little bit chunkier. So he starts here, finishes here. This next X starts here, finishes over here, and then the O, let's do the same thing to the O, just kind of scooch him over just a bit. There he goes. OXO. Oh, looks good. Okay, now I'm going to change the color on that because I think I want that to be, we need all of our threads. We need all of that to be white. I like that so much. Now it's not in the right place. So what I have to do is combine these designs. So create design, combine designs. And now I want those letters to stitch before that bow, right? So let's, while we're working on that heart down there, let's stitch the letters on the heart before it moves to do anything else. So let's scoot all of that up to stitch right after. See how those tuck right up under the bow? Isn't that cute? I really love that. I might adjust it just a tiny bit more. Hold on, let's see. Let's make it down. We'll squish it down just a tiny bit. So cute. Isn't that cute? It's like it's peeking out underneath the bow. It has a little bit more of a 3D effect. So I think that's good. So the next thing to do is to stitch it out and see how we did. After I stitch it out, I might come back and adjust this a little bit, but that's basically how I use an SVG to start digitizing. So I hope this was helpful. And yeah, let me know what you think. So we'll get over to the embroidery machine and we'll do a quick stitch out of it. I watch my embroidery designs when I'm doing the first stitch out because I want to see, did everything work? Did all my padding work? It's not just I send it to the machine and let it do its thing. I stand there and I watch it. So that part may not be as exciting as this because it is, you know, just watching what the embroidery machine does. But I'll learn some things from watching it. So we'll head over there and see how it comes out. All right, we're at the embroidery machine, and you can see that I've sped this way up because it's really just a lot of watching. But what I've got is some wash away stabilizer. I've got a couple of layers of it because this is not the good stuff. This was some stuff I'm trying to use up, and it's not super strong, so I have 3 layers of it actually. But I'm running through the stitches, so I've got my bobbin thread and my top thread matching, and you can see that heart is stitching, you know, from one side to the other. We're on the border of it already. This is sped way up. I think it's about a 20-minute stitch out, but you'll see me stop and change the bobbin, change the top thread, every time. That is something that I generally always do. If I can't find an exact match on a pre-wound bobbin, I'll use something that's close. If you want to, you could go ahead and wind your bobbin, but I buy pre-wound colorful bobbins from Wonderful, and so I just use what's close. But I do match the back to the front as much as I can. So we're stitching through those steps. This is my single needle Janome 550, and I'm just rethreading so that I can get to the lettering. We're going to do the lettering, then that little top button. So every time we go through the stitching here, I speed up the video just to see. And one other tip when you're doing any embroidery design, if you're changing the thread, take time when you do a thread change to trim off any start and stop tails. Even if your machine trims the jumps for you, if you'll take time to do the trimming as well in between stops, then your embroidery will come out a lot cleaner. Okay, I'm changing the bobbin again, so because I have another color for that little top ornament piece, that area. And so you can see that my stabilizer's pulling a bit. That stabilizer was just not good. I don't recommend it at all. The stabilizer that I do recommend is Fabra Solvi by Sulky or Lace Made from Wonderful. Both of those stabilizers are a high quality stabilizer that I don't ever have any issues with. The stuff that I bought off Amazon is inconsistent in its quality. So you can see that I had to, use a little bit more than I normally do just because the quality wasn't there. But anyway, we're off to stitch up that little part at the top and get everything right. And again, I'm going to trim my tails, when I get started so they're not caught underneath there. Because this is a freestanding lace ornament or Suncatcher or bookmark, you'll see some of those thread tails if they get caught in the stitching. So I like to trim them off before they get caught. All right, we're ready to make the bow on this guy. So we've done 3 colors. Whew, wouldn't it be great if embroidery was really that fast? It's not always that fast. And generally, while things are stitching, you could do some other stuff. I can put up my bobbins. I could put up my threads from my last project. I could, do a little bit of picking up around it. Do I always do that? No, I most of the time get mesmerized and just keep watching it stitch, which I need to do. I need to be watching. I need to be listening to make sure that my machine's working correctly and everything's doing what it's supposed to do. And, but, I could do some little things, keep things tidy. Do I? No, but I could. All right, so we're stitching that bow, and we're going to speed way up. The bow actually is the longest part of the stitching, just because there's, it's not a regular shape. It's got to go from, one side to the other, and then it's doing that crisscrossing. The freestanding lace fill pattern that we had selected is actually 4 layers of crisscross stitches, so 2 sets of grids. We're doing that little detail stitching around the tails, and then, around the bow. And remember, that center part was going to be last, so we're just stitching all of those areas, and there we are. Yay! Wow, if only it was that fast. I'm just going to cut around that stabilizer, get it out of there, and we're ready to rinse it. And I just rinse under water real quick, and then I take it over to my counter and use paper towels generally to press out as much water as I can. And that is pretty much all there is to it. Now, if I have a little bit of threads, I'll take care of those threads and trim them off. Sometimes I use a little bit of a flame to get them off, but yeah, I'm really happy with that. So anyway, that's the process I use for digitizing. So let me know if you have any comments, or if you're going to try digitizing your own freestanding lace. It's lots of fun, and there's no limit to what you can do. I hope this was helpful. Be sure to like this video and subscribe so that you can see more. We'll talk to you soon. See more at designsbybabymoon.com. Thanks for watching.